record to this computer. Cool. Then we will have the lecture in both languages recorded. Let's start. Very glad to see you all, and very glad, of course, to see Elena, our curator for the fourth, and the last module of these sessions. On matter, we created these words broadly. To give an overview of matter is not an easy task, because it includes a lot. It's about energy, it is about materials, it's about all kind of different things. Elena invited some great speakers, and we'll kick off today with her own lecture, which is a kind of general overview on what matter could be and why it matters. Nice word joke. Elena, I'll before I start rambling, I will give you the floor to start your introduction of this. Maybe a few words about the course and the ones you invite, and then start your lecture.
Yes. So I'm Elena. I'm just trying to find a way to share it. I'm Elena. I am half Ukrainian, half Lithuanian. I grew up in Lithuania all my life, but been having a privilege to work in Ukraine from 2016 on and off with Connection schools and urban initiatives, and been intensively involved in the last 3 years in Ukraine, emergency first as a coordinator for emergency relief under the shelter and housing cluster, and later on had different roles connected to the more strategic green recovery and reconstruction. I don't know if you see my screen. It doesn't.
Not yet, not yet.
Okay, it's not coming up. Okay, let me try again. Yeah, so this is who I am, and I'm happy to be on the fourth model that matters. So I will try to give my own framework, the way I see what really matters today for Ukraine, and how to think and how to connect also what you already learn, and how to find broader linkages and broader role of you as an architect, designers, urban planners, urban thinkers, someone who cares deeply on the way the reconstruction is done. So just give me, yeah, still doesn't somehow work on my side.
I also don't know how I can help.
No, it seems I have a sharing. Let me try.
You have permission, at least, also?
Yeah, no, I have a permission, but somehow these different platforms.
Yeah, terrible.
No, I have the challenge. Lisa, can I just send you?
When you have on share?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, no, I have it shared, but it's not allowing. I think from my side, it's not allowing the workplace allow Zoom workplace to share the screen, and I have the.
Okay, then indeed maybe Lisa can help, and you just say click.
Так, одну хвилинку, будь ласка.
Right, in a second.
Yep,
Apologies from my side.
no worries.
Lisa, can you control my screen from your side, or I need to resend you the PDF?
You just say click, I think, or next, and then Lisa will click.
Так,
No,
так,
but
це
Lisa,
вже PDF, все окей.
no, Lisa, you
So
have
I got it. It's the PDF.
PDF. Sorry,
Uh,
this is what's the problem now. Um,
What's happened now?
no, I just need to share with Lisa the latest PDF.
Ah, okay.
Then the power is not a problem. There is some other problems. Okay, Lisa, I just use the one you have. Could you share? Is it only me who don't see the screen?
No, we don't see it.
Can't see it either.
Okay.
У мене немає слайдів, мені нічого не надходило.
I don't have any slides. I didn't receive any new presentations.
Elena don't have any slides, didn't received anything.
Yeah, but the one that you had a couple of hours ago, can you share that? Or I think I manage. Yeah.
Yes. Something coming up. This looks
And replace. I have mine. Now I have my desktop. Do you able to see it?
you started to share. Now we see your whole.
Yeah.
The other things than the presentation, but it's coming up, I think.
Yeah.
Yes.
Let me.
Yeah, we can see.
Yeah. You can see. Just let me organize it. So I just do send. Okay. Can you see it all?
It's there.
Perfect. Thank you. Apologies from my side. So as I said, I will try to give you today a bit of a kind of straightforward thinking systemic framework. And just to recap that you already had the three modules: urbanism, movement, and people. And today I will try to introduce you a transformative framework that might help to kind of connect these dots from going from concepts to systematic work. So there will be 5 entry points, like the themes, and there will be a kind of a presentation of conditions that Ukraine today face as EU digital and standards that are enabling the transformation. And the logic will be like how urbanism movement and people work together, in addition with environment, circularity, and health. So I will also touch upon multi-stakeholder coordination at the reconstruction scale really briefly. Please, if I'm talking too quick, remind me to slow down for the translation. Thank you. So reconstruction or transformation? It's the question that I want you all to have in mind and ask. And there is a lot of talk in Ukraine about Build Back Better. And there is even discussions Build Back Better faster or Build Back Better slower and what it means. But just to understand that we're talking about the large amounts of money that there are need throughout the 10 years. And we really cannot afford altogether to rebuild it not a sustainable way in the sustainable system thinking. So what is the difference between the reconstruction and the transformation? Reconstruction is returning to the previous state, to replicate existing systems, repeat known solutions, project-based and project approach, and sectorial planning in silos. It is definitely faster because we know how to do it from before, but what we need today is not to repeat or expand the vulnerabilities that people face, the system face, and we need to think and to make that choice to rebuild the system that are actually building the future. So I would invite today to look what the transformation actually does. So it creates a new systems, it redesigns the relationships between the systems and people. It uses innovative solutions that are today and will be innovated in the future. It looks into integrated approach in everyday life and long-term planning. It actually works with the cross-sectoral coordination. It takes a lot of effort and time, but it is a better investment for the future. I would like to remind, and you probably all know, the way the Marshall Plan was actually done. The Marshall Plan is a reconstruction plan that was initiated in 1948 in Europe, where the money were actually borrowed from US. But at that time, the money was really a driving force for economy. And there is a notion till today that money leads to reconstruction and leads to recovery. And probably in most of the discussions and design discussions, planning discussions, you know, we tend to think that money can really draw the solutions. But what is important for today's Ukraine transformation, there are conditions that actually can help us out to make the future different, to build back better. And the capital, of course, is needed for that transformation. The capital alone leads to reconstruction, but it doesn't lead to transformation. Ukraine transformation conditions are internal and external. So as you all know, external are the EU accession framework, its laws, the principle and objectives that Ukraine needs to follow in order to be part part of European Union. The Green Deal alignment is one of the big things that EU is also looking forward to align with Ukraine integration. Institutional reforms are prerequisites and required. International standards for transport networks, energy performance, and circularity are also there. Internal conditions are digital transparency that is already happening, and Ukraine is the example for many. Prozoro, Dream, and anti-corruption by the design. And civil society participation is really, really strong. Donors' requirements are for inclusion in every single project. 70% public trust the civil society, and monitoring and accountability are mostly relies on the civil society. So I would like to invite you today into this 5 kind of element transformation framework. And what is important is the topics that are there, and you are really familiar with it in different scales. But I will invite now to kind of zoom out and look from the national perspective of Ukraine, and how these transformation framework elements, but also mostly the relationships between integrated urban planning and sustainable mobility that you already went in the first, second, and the third block, clean energy and efficiency, environment, ecosystem recovery, circularity as regenerative design, and disaster risk reduction and resilience are really key for Ukraine's transformation. So integrated urban planning transformation mechanism is actually a national strategy and a vision that Ukraine also kind of have, and it mostly goes through the Ukraine facility plan. What is really needed, and there are bits and pieces of national comprehensive territory plan and thinking around it. Master plans are there, and detailed plans are there, and projects are there, new and old. And this is all needs to be kind of aligned. But what is important that it always need to have the spatial geographical location, because if we want to follow up the concept that not the investment leads the decision, we need to know in the overall territory, that's usually a national comprehensive territory plan role, to understand the needs, the gaps, and the opportunities. So digital transparency are already there that can help it out. And urban planning cadastre that's 2024 opened, it's kind of a tool. Public monitoring systems for decision making are still needed to be kind of invested, because what happens now with a lot of digital transparency tools in Ukraine, that it actually shows the picture of, but it doesn't show the strategy and scenarios. And I will soon get you into the examples what I really mean. Cross-sectoral approach from the start is really important, and this is what I invite you today to think through your projects, how they are interlinked with other sectors. And conflict of interest clearance and resolutions at the planning stage are really essential, because if we don't agree among stakeholders and our everyone's individual interest, we will have a challenge later on in any different scale. So multi-stakeholder coordination, government, civil society, private sector, academia, and internationals are the key for the transformation. So okay, so what I mean that Ukraine Ukraine facility plan is the main kind of document where the decisions and investments are going through, and this kind of leads towards EU integration. And if you see by the indicators that are there, there's a lot of indicators that could be easily translated into the territorial dimension, but this is not done. So when we look to the Ukraine's facility plan, there is so few who understands what it means for each region. There are so few who understands how it is important to align with each of municipality planning systems and approaches. And even more difficult to understand how Ukraine facility plan will go down to the smaller projects of urban planning, urban design, and architecture. So it's not there, and what is really needed, this comprehensive national territory vision or territory plan. But in the last 2 weeks, just because I've been looking at the spatial dimension for a couple of years now, and what is really interesting, and I want to mention it today, that rapid damage assessment round 5 that is going to be done now in December. And as you see, I just have Marinas Denisuluk, the deputy's minister's quote, that there is an opportunity with a rapid damage assessment this year that would be released in February, actually to have more territorial dimension. So not only to document the damage, but also to document it into the settlement level approach and to understand it more what it means for the territory. So another important aspect is just recently, 4 days ago, the Cabinet of Ministers had approved the list of indicators that requirement to classify Ukrainian communities into different functional territory types. And this is also important because, as you see in the presentation for microregions and functional territories, we already see how there are different regions, might have different damages, have different needs, have different abilities to bounce back and be reconstructed. So as for the spatial planning, you already had the 3 models. I will try to focus and give you the kind of nutshell of what the clean energy and energy efficiency means for the practitioners as you and me. So from centralized to distributed renewables, we're looking from NZEB standards, deep renovation. We're looking to off-grid solutions, digital energy management, emission reduction. From environment, ecosystems, and recovery, we really need to look at war damage assessment and remediation, contamination management, ecosystem restoration, green infrastructure treatment systems, nature-based solutions in new environmental compliance. Circularity and regenerative design, we're looking from linear to circular material flow. We're looking to design for disassembly and longevity. We're looking to contaminated demolition waste management, bio-based materials, soil restoration, circular procurement. From the disaster risk reduction and resilience, we're looking how the projects and people can adapt to multi-hazard adaptation, war, climate, and health, physical, social, and economic, plus psychological resilience, health city principles and diagnostics, trauma-informed placemaking, climate mitigation, and adaptation. These are the themes that, of course, I would not be able to go in depth, but I just want you to be able, maybe associate what you can actually link it to your projects or your focus or your interest. Some of it, Anna and Gintare, that are coming next and after next week, they will try to go in depth and give you some tools for basically for analysis. So clean energy and energy efficiency, Anna Ackerman will talk more about it, but just to have a brief kind of understanding or more in-depth understanding for others, the transformative mechanism for it is clear energy efficiency from centralized to vulnerable to distribute resilience. Sorry? Can you hear me?
Yeah, all is okay. Just someone has had the mic on at a second.
Okay. Sorry, because it shows me that the internet is not stable. Okay, so basically you all know and you're all aware that yeah, infrastructure damage is tremendous. There are blackouts as even today or the last month, everyone is affected. So how do we have this in account in our projects? How do we look at it? So distributed resilience can be done from multiple distributed renewable sources, local microgrids, building generated own energy, battery storage systems, digital smart grids management. And what are the transformation strategies for it? So we need to look into the building standards and use the nearly zero energy building standard that in European Union is used. Complex renovation and existing stock of housing needs to be really looked at and made strategic decisions what we destroy and what we renovate. Decentralized generations would be for everyone in every individual house, but also in all the infrastructure, public infrastructure buildings. Biomass from sustainable sources will be a new norm. Off-grid solutions, critical infrastructure is a priority for Ukraine, and neighborhood microgrids is already on implementation stage. So digital energy management is one of the things we also need to be aware. And environment and ecosystem recovery, and what are the transformation conditions for it? So war actually brought environment and damage, and the numbers are changing every day. We have 52.4 billion at the moment. A million of hectares of agricultural land are contaminated. Million hectares of forest are affected. Nature reserves damaged. Industrial sites destroyed. Kokovka Dam and other places. EU have the standards that are kind of prerequisites for entering the EU. So it's climate neutrality, 55% emission reduction by 2030, nature restoration targets, zero population, and biodiversity protection. So combining these two both, the Ukraine professionals and every people living on Ukraine soil will have a tremendous challenge to address it, because any new construction or any new project needs to have both EU standards but also the war environmental damage into account. So what it does to us as a professionals, it really makes us all to address environmental recovery as a concept from the start. It doesn't matter from which field we actually come from. So contamination assessment and kind of reconstruction or building it back better. So soil contamination is really important for any project, from exploded ordnance to chemical splits to heavy metals and fuel. We will have water pollution in industrial, but also on groundwater level, air quality from fires to destroyed industrial facilities, but also what is really important for our field of expertise is demolition dust and asbestos, and how do we deal it, and there is still in 3 years there is still a challenge how to address it, and there is not yet, as far as I'm aware, the concrete strategy for each of the project how to address it. So what it means for the projects, it means that the clearance will be required, repair planning, it will be from the day one. Some sites will be unavailable until retreated, and that take ages. Sometimes it takes a couple of months, sometimes it takes years. Flood risks, that wetlands restoration are opportunities. Health implications are a big issue, and there are ways how to deal with it through ventilation sensitive use of locations, making really sure that the assessments are done before schools, hospitals, and other basic facilities are actually allocated. So ecosystem restoration, We need to look into, forests that are source of materials, but also source of leisure. Wetlands and rivers have all biodiversity habits and blue infrastructure integration. Agricultural land, from soil to organic matter of rebuilding, and food security connection, and urban ecosystems that probably easy to relate is looking into green infrastructure networks, urban forests for cooling, air purification, biodiversity in cities, from green roofs, from nesting sites to nature-based solutions. So the green infrastructure as a treatment system is essential infrastructure. So as already mentioned, the air purification will be the need to address water treatment, cooling, floods, soil, biodiversity through the corridors, habitats, and ecosystem services. Ecosystems as a kind of a digital environmental tracking ecosystem platform is already in place. And where is really needed, and DREAM have the ambition, as far as I am aware, that environment indicators will be embedded in the DREAM project monitoring tracking system. What is important that also DREAM is more giving you a picture of the projects that are already decided. It doesn't really give you a picture of how the decisions are made, and it doesn't give you the picture of actually the needs. And this is one of the biggest challenge, that there is no integrated coordination system and tool that helps from the municipality to the ministry, to the donor, to the civil society, to understand how the investments and needs actually are meeting on the dimensional level, geographical level, or spatial level. So environment dimension integration into planning is through the environmental assessment in all the plans and projects. Energy, renewable reduced emissions, but biomass sustainability as a source could be example. In circularity, contaminated waste management, soil restoration, and material reuse. And resilience, health ecosystems actually is equal to the climate resilience. And that's what we need to have in mind when we look to the environment dimension integration. So the aspect of the circularity and how it actually leads to regenerative design solutions. So the transformation challenge is not only in Ukraine, it's everywhere else, that we have most of the cases as a predominant linear economy, where we extract, manufacture, transport, use, dispose, and that leads actually into environmental damage. There is a lot of awareness and understanding globally that it has an environmental cost. But what is, the reconstruction challenge now here is really clear, that we have the more than 30% housing damage, million tons of debris that are not in use. Storing it will cost way more than actually, trying to find out what to do with it. And massive new construction are in demand. Plus, much of it is contaminated, as the debris is with asbestos, PCBs, and heavy metals. So it is, if we look at it, is also environmental crisis. But can it be actually regeneration opportunity? And I would argue that it can. This is just illustration, how it is important to find the ways and relate to each of the design project, how we can contribute to close this loop, and how we should avoid to really not contribute to the linear economy process. It is hard, it is challenging. It's most of the time can argue that it's more expensive, but it's important to invest in the future generations, and what do we actually leave behind. So there are different kind of circular regenerative economy aspects. There is this biological cycle, organic one, and there is a technical. Looking into the technical one, maybe trying to zoom in, it's design, reuse, maintain, disable, decontamination, reuse, and back to the design. And can we actually close that loop? With some projects we can, but with most of the cases, it doesn't matter on the project size and impact. What is important to have in mind that we prevent the landfills, we reuse the extraction of damage to the new sites, we treat the hazardous material safely, and keep materials and kind of we keep it reusing the same materials as much as possible. So benefits is to close the loops, local resourced, local jobs created, reduce the emissions locally and globally, and this is the way we build the resilient communities. So circularity also have its own transformation strategies. So design for circularity is actually designed for building as material banks, like, reusing it and repurposing it. Reversible connections, material passports that actually helps. Then you actually know what materials consist of and how you can reuse from the start of actually making them in 100 years lifespan thinking. This is really hard because most of the time we don't know from where the materials comes, the ones that we use in the project, but it is important to start knowing. Contamination assessment and safety circularity is pre-demolition hazard material survey to understand what actually is there. And this is not so practiced because these surveys are expensive. You need a specific expertise for that, but it's important to have in mind. Treatment protocols, safe disposals, worker safety standards are really crucial and important. I remember from the 2022 when we started with the shelter assistance, a lot of standards were not in place, but in 3 years there is a huge improvement, and I'm really happy that everyone, even volunteers, are actually taking the precautions, and it is important for everyone who is in reconstruction process. So local material innovations are actually happening in Ukraine, from bio-based from Ukrainian agriculture, straw, sunflower chunks, hemp, corn stacks are all used. At the end of life, they can be composted, restored, and degraded. The 3D printing is also, there are several pilots in Ukraine. Prefab systems are also coming in from wood to zero emission cement. Circular procurement, Prozora is integrating the circular criteria into the system, and life cycle cost analyses are also prerequisites now to several international donor projects, but also I hope they will become as part of the everyday life in the project management. And environment compliance criteria is there, but needs to be adjusted according. Okay. Resilience dimension. Ukraine main threats, as you all know, war and conflict brought this is more focused from the environment and circularity, ongoing attacks that leads to displacements, environment damage, migration internal and external that actually leads to the human capital loss. Shrinking or expanding urban and rural areas is a challenge, and economical decline. So climate change is also there. Heat waves, floods, droughts, exacerbated by ecosystem destruction, mental health, healthcare stress, environment health impacts. Understand? Sorry, this is. So 4-dimension resilience are physical, social, economic, and psychological. So then we look to the physical one is how we can address the resilience or actually build it stronger is through distributed infrastructure, from energy to basic services to other basic facilities. Ecosystems adaptation needs to be into account. Climate adapted materials are also important, as just discussed. The social is community networks are strong and needs to be strengthened. Inclusive design, then people are from the decision making into the process, not only seeing the picture of something that is already decided. And participation, as you learned with Anna before, it's really important. Economic aspect of resilience is diverse economies, circular systems where local employment is a key, and psychological one is the trauma-informed design that is really needed in Ukraine. Nature access from the for mental health and the body health. Community healing spaces are going to be in highly demand in the future. So integration with other entry points as a hands-on approach, what it is resilience. So from the planning to environment, master plans, integrated contamination zones needs to be part of. All the environmental assessments needs to be part of every plan and a project. Green infrastructure as a planning layer needs to be as a norm. Climate adaptation zones needs to be mapped in every single project. Energy and environment, how that interlinked. Renewable energy is the same as it leads to emission reduction. Biomass sustainability as a source, distributed systems, less ecosystem disruption, circularity towards the resilience, the local materials equal to supply chain resilience, soil restoration is a food security. Environment towards circularity is contaminated waste requires special treatment. Organic cycles restores the degraded soil, and green infrastructure use biological actually systems. So this is how it interlinks. And resilience interlinks with the environment, where healthy ecosystems leads towards the climate resilience, green spaces leads towards the mental health, and nature-based solutions address multiple threats. So integration principles, just like as I've been talking a lot, to understand from the project-based perspective, that green corridor actually, through the planning, it designs the corridor in the master plan would be kind of contributing already into the planning aspect. In order to address the environment, the green corridor would restore the degraded ecosystems. In order to strengthen the resilience, the green corridor would provide the cooling and heat adaptation. So it's just a kind of a simple logic behind how one project and aspect can actually interlink with other components. So if we look to the project on the contaminated site, it contributes towards the environment. Then we do the contamination assessment that really leads to looking into the plants that cleans the soil over 3 and 5 years, and that space can actually be used for for people walking but not really living on that site. It contributes towards circularity. Then we look to demolition materials that can be sorted in the contaminated site, the hazards separated, reusable materials processed safely. So that would contribute to circularity. Energy, of course, the buildings with NZEB rooftop solar, that's the easiest way to look at it. The planning, if site is integrated in the TOD zone or any other zone, depending on the location. And the resilience is that the green roofs for cooling, plus it contributes to biodiversity, plus it can actually be a public space for trauma healing. So that's just the idea of two ways, two projects and two ways how it affects. As I mentioned in the beginning, the stakeholder ecosystem is really important on the national level, and especially when we bring other aspects as environment and circularity. There are 5 groups of stakeholders that are key to play a role and to be coordinated, orchestrated throughout all the processes in order to have a cohesion, reconstruction, build back better process. So the government on all the levels and the roles, you know it well, policy, funding, allocation, standards, and public services. Civil society role is really to monitor, to participate, to engage the community, to actually make sure that the technical advocacy is there, and basically gap filling the services that volunteer groups especially did really well in the last three years. The private sector is also really important from the start, because it's actually capital and investment. It is the ones that are implementing, innovating, and also employing people. Academia and university cannot be on the side in the silos doing the research, because the research and evidence that I do today is really important to contribute towards the innovation. And technical expertise they have is actually there. We might not know it, but it's always important to check who actually done something beforehand before we start any of the project. And also as today, all the education and training projects also coming from the people that are related to academia. Also, they do monitoring well through their research. And international partners, as they were crucial for Ukraine resilience till now, is actually the role of resources, technical assistance, standards, and the knowledge exchange. So what I would really like to invite you, if you are not yet been exposed to it, but probably you've been, as you come from all the diverse backgrounds and also experiences, be a facilitator and be the one that actually gets these people together, or the one that actually ask, how important is to actually find out who else works on the project or on the idea initiative. Because it's a really difficult role, but it's also so rewarding, because you bring different voices around the table and actually you get something in common in the end of the day. So digital infrastructure, as I mentioned also, it enables for the transparency. What we have today in Ukraine is incredible, but it's not enough. As I mentioned, all these tools are doing a great job, but there is that tool that is really needed for decision makers and for coordination purposes of all the stakeholders involved that will have a territorial aspect. And sadly, none of these tools yet have it. And I hope really from the initiatives in the last 2 weeks and the discussion of the last 2 weeks that will be also embedded. So strategic advantages and opportunities, as already mentioned, the active civil society, digital infrastructure, EU accession framework, reform momentum, medium cities as a pilot are all over the place in Ukraine, and that's great. And international attention is there. There is a window of opportunity today for also designers, architects, and planners to act with the urgency because there is a need of a project, but also to have a long-term vision. And that's what I would really like to invite you. So transformation formula that I'm putting today on the table is always think about the conditions that are there as EU standards, digital innovation, the building standards and Green Deal. Don't forget the stakeholders, these 5 groups that always need to be into account and in collaboration mode at any stage of the project. There are 5 entry points that I introduced, and this all could lead to a better transformation and resilient, sustainable, regenerative, and equitable Ukraine. As a designer, you are also an agent for a change. In different circumstances, maybe 10, 20 years ago, the conventional architect in Ukraine or elsewhere would be okay to respond to the brief, technical solutions, and work in isolated projects, disciplines with boundaries, and project completion success will be assessed according to that. But there is a need of a transformation practitioner, and I think because you are here today listening to me and you listen to others, you are the one that could facilitate multi-stakeholder process, design integrated systems, create demonstration effects, bridge disciplines, and have a systemic change for the success. What it means to go from the single building or project focus to building systems, from client brief to multi-stakeholder co-creation process, from technical problem-solving solutions to facilitation system of change. Project completion, there is a need to see a potential for scale and inspired replication, and might be some projects not completed, or they are completed not the way they were planned, but it is an opportunity for learning, and this is what we need more to see in Ukraine, is these pilots that we can learn from, is these lessons learned that we can share. Because there is a lot of, in the last Rebuild conference, there was a lot of, again, discussion, but it's so good to see after 3 years of being in Warsaw in Rebuild Ukraine, seeing so many projects and so many municipalities actually presenting the projects and telling their stories and what they learn, what works, what doesn't work, what are the challenges. So staying in your line as usual might not work, but bringing disciplines that might be conflicting, that might be challenging, that might be time and energy demanding, but that's what is needed. So I'm inviting you and everyone in the room to use this transformation formula for synthesis of your work, from small scale of your project that you have now in mind, looking into these 5 entry points and try to demonstrate what is possible. Just do this kind of mental exercise. The medium scale would be to work with Nesian transformation, bigger kind of strategy approach. and see if Nizhyn case could be a pilot for similar characteristic cities in Ukraine. And larger scale would be, to have a Nizhyn success kind of story or something that really worked in Nizhyn thinking, to see if that could be replicable on the national wide scale. Can it be a transformation for the policy across Ukraine for these particular cities on one or two particular aspects? So thank you for your attention. I think I managed with time. There are key resources. Sorry for the technical challenges, but I am through. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thanks so much. This was indeed a very quick run through of so many valuable details. So very glad that the presentation will be kept both on YouTube as all the presentation itself will also be put on the platform, of course, for you to refer to, look back to, and see all those references, which are also super valuable. You put a lot of, shall I call it, pressure also on the group. It's quite some tasks you are putting into all of us here to become this future orientated urbanist, let's call us. There are probably some direct questions to you. I'm looking around, or is it was it too overwhelming to come up with something now? I don't see immediate. Look, I can't see the whole screen.
There is Salomia.
Go, please, Salomia.
Thank you, dear Elena. It was really great and huge complex. You put a lot of sin in this lecture in plan recovery of Ukraine and functional zone and very practical things. Thank you. I'm interested about functional zones. Would you share how it works in Great Britain, for example? Because in Ukraine, we have 5 classification zone. Yeah, it's 5 of them: recovery areas, growth area, and areas with special development zones, and sustainable development zones. How it works in your country, for example? Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Salomia. It's a really good question, and I haven't mentioned. So I'm originally from Lithuania, and I was invited 5 years ago to actually do the National Comprehensive Lithuanian Territory Plan. And as you know, Lithuania has a history. We have the same neighbor that we cannot change. We have the same challenge that, an opportunity that we really want to be part of Europe, with not only documents, but also with our economy and growth. But we have a challenge that shrinking, regions we have and communities. We want to be towards, Scandinavia and proud to be Baltics, and that brings all the challenge. How do you develop? And comprehensive Lithuanian National Territory Plan was actually first a vision 2050, and then the plan 2030. And you can imagine what it is, even not having a quite a stable, environment to work with, how challenging it was for politicians, practitioners, and civil society to make a decision which region will be developing and which one will be shrinking. And then we brought the assessment what is actually happening. Because, it's really easy in political terms to discuss that I want everything for my municipality because we are growing. But then we brought the social economic analysis, and we see the scenarios that there is no pulling factors, that the regions that are bordering Russia and Belarus would grow. There is, even if we bring the national theater or any other object that would attract people, it's not how it works. We had to make these really crucial decisions, how we are not saying that this will not function, they have no opportunity of growth, and people will start even moving away from it because they will understand that none of the investment would come. How to make a strategy and agree on it, that these smaller places still have a unique identity that could be strengthened, that there is still opportunities of being there, but they need a kind of a satellite, a stronger satellite city or town that would help them out with basic services, because you cannot put up, everywhere enough schools and hospitals and basic services. So we made these three kind of layers of Lithuanian urban structure to actually be realistic with resources we have, with the threats we have, and the opportunities we have. The cities cannot develop the same way or sustain even the same way. But what would be the hierarchy? And that was a crucial political decision to be made, because we had to pull that hierarchy according to the data. And that's why the data on territorial dimension is really crucial, because from the ministries, and it was the same challenge where Ministry of Finance and Economy would say, this is the money you have, we decide where it will be placed. Actually, it is for the planners and designers to work with the data and assessments and to bring people around the table to make the decisions with the resources we have. Money do not make the decisions. And that's what I really want to bring as a hope.
Thanks. Vlodomir also has a question. He put it in the chat. A complex and comprehensive lecture. This is something that is rarely talked about, but it's of importance out of a sense of responsibility for our children. Do you know any good practical examples of circular economy, like where it functions, projects or something?
Yeah. So because I had no space and I tried to put it the last minute and then I had to take it out, I can send it if it's useful, and I think it is useful to send really great examples that actually rethink, and your rethink in Ukraine is bringing everyone around the table. And they just announced that in the spring there will be a conference about the circularity examples. And actually all the innovations related to circularity, just start following their website, because they are accumulating different individuals, but also organizations. The other international kind of pilot and a successful innovator in Ukraine is NeoEco. It's a French-based circular kind of economy. They have the experience working with the debris in Lebanon, also in Haiti after major kind of disasters, how to reuse it. And in Mykolaiv region, I don't know if you are aware, some of you might, that there's going to be a zero emission cement factory built up by them. There will be also a European standard laboratory to analyze the debris and its composition. And it's also already used a lot for the roads reconstruction, for the roads, bridges, There is also projects for the school bunkers that are actually reused from the debris. So just try to look into their website. They have most of the information updated according to their, yeah. And they're also printing, they're using it for 3D printing with reused debris material. So have a look.
There's a question in the chat from Tatiana. I can translate it into English so that it's easier. So there's a question about the institutional reform that you mentioned. What do you think? What should local government bodies do? Like form a kind of team and to teach them, or work with external experts? There's like she mentions an experience that you create a good team, you like train them, and then they go to work on different projects, and especially like international ones.
Yeah. I think it's a huge challenge for Ukraine, for both international organizations and the national ones, because what happens that there is a hierarchy, you know, kind of the opportunities are there, and especially the young population moves between these opportunities. And I think it's a challenge for everyone, because you really need to make a decision from organizational side how much you invest, because the person, my experience was with the teams I worked in Ukraine, people will move every half a year. But, you know, I have this way of looking into the globe that if I invested, or organization invested to someone, and that someone is staying in Ukraine and sharing that experience, it's as beautiful as it can get, till it's replicated and shared. You know, I think the biggest loss is that we lose the people in the front line, and we lose the people under the debris. I think that's the biggest loss. The rest is a normal circular shared economy. People are free to go, and I think it's so important that more and more people we educate in courses like these, in different teams, because you need way more than we all can do. So I think municipalities needs to invest. And, you know, till now, what it worked in my teams, if you create the environment that is, you know, a learning environment, meaningful environment, again, the money do not make a final decision. And I think that's what is important, you know, because we need to invest to everyone, because we are talking, you know, now we're talking, if you look to the budget, it's 10 years projection, but reconstruction will take us probably 3 or 4 times more. And then we talk about psychological reconstruction of people's life. That takes generations. So we need to have that ecosystem floating, and people are free to move. And, you know, if they learn something in Lviv municipality and now we move to Kiev municipality in international organization or the local, you know, NGO, it's great. As long as we can create that people stay in Ukraine, or even being abroad, as here in London, I meet Ukrainians every day, you know, everyone is contributing. So I think we need that global ecosystem in order to build that vector.
Great. That was very right. Do you see a change, because you have been working over the years now, and there is always this difficulty of, I mean, you are a great advocate for changing from the linear old way to circular thinking and on the longer term, but you mentioned a few times it is maybe more expensive in the beginning. It will take more energy. It will be more difficult maybe, but crucial in the end for the good result. Do you see changes in attitude in working with maybe municipalities or professionals in Ukraine over the years, that there is a shift in that direction?
I see a huge shift from the emergency response that I mean, like 2022 April, then I started. I see a huge shift because, you know, when we all had, from nationals to internationals, we all had this idea of uncertainty, speed, we don't know how long it will last. A lot of decisions were made on the framework, let's save lives. And things that were not in place, like, for example, procedures for asbestos, they were not in place. And from municipality to international organizations and national, like, volunteers, they didn't know what to do. They were working without gloves. They were working without, you know, like, safety. That changed a lot through all the levels. What is also important that Europe saw it as an opportunity, because the Green Deal a bit vanished from the European Union discussion, but they saw the great opportunity to push themselves, practitioners, but also through Ukraine, you know, find out the innovative solutions and test things in Europe at the same time for Ukraine for the better good. And I think a lot of donors started to have, like, if you put in your Google Green Recovery Ukraine, you will come up with 1,000 projects and organizations and you don't know what, because just starting using the word and then digging deeper to understand what it means, what principles we actually have in mind, it takes time, because no one actually have these principles set up in proper indicators and frameworks and policies and procedures and practices. So we all have a window of opportunity all together to do it, because we still are dealing with the climate change. You know, in London it's plus 13. This is the end of November. This is not normal. You know, we have heat waves, we have floods everywhere in Europe and also in Ukraine. So I think having that in mind and having the opportunity, window of opportunity in Ukraine, because investments are there, and just looking to the Rebuild Ukraine conference, the projects are way more with the green aspect or sustainability aspect than ever before this year. And they're really diverse, from Ukrainians to internationals. And this is really nice to see that landscape, because it's also a really interesting field for urban planners, designers, and architects to actually touch it with your hand, you know, the earth material, the reuse material. It has a completely different feeling than you go to the school, then you understand that it's actually, you know, 80% used by reuse. It's off-grid solution. You know that it will not have a blackout in the hospital where emergency, you know, room is like in operation. So there is a lot of fascinating moments on really kind of sad basis. But there are fascinating moments that we might leave this place a bit better than we actually found it.
Thanks for these words and your energy and attitude. I think what we should do now is take our small break. I will introduce you in the system of the lessons by now. So it's after this we say goodbye to our wonderful translator. We normally thank our lecturer and he or she leaves as well, but in this case not, because you are staying to lead the experienced professional groups a little bit further in the work they are doing for the coming 3 weeks. So After the break, we come together again in our separate rooms of the 3 groups, and from then you can also split up again if necessary, but you know about that. Then, like 10 minutes before the end, we all come back to the main room just to discuss a little bit what we talked about, where we are, and what will happen next week. So we'll be the speaker and continues. So, Elena, thanks a lot. We normally take 15 minutes, so I would say we see each other in the separate rooms at at 2020. Yes, I can count. 13 minutes. Thanks, and see you later.
Thank you.
Thank you.